Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to do a little review on the car. Just go over all the maintenance and what to know before maybe you're in the market for getting one of these cars. Maybe you're interested or want to know the long-term review. So today I'm just going to go over kind of my long-term review on the car, what to look for, modifications, future plans, and all that kind of stuff. So let's hop right into it. Alright, so first thing first, I've had the car now for a little over 2 years, and I bought the car with about 28,000 miles on it, and now I have about 73,000 miles on it. I do daily drive the car to work, which is about a 50-mile round trip. It's mostly highway driving, so it's not really a lot of stop and go. So as far as like wear and tear on it, there hasn't really been a lot of wear and tear because majority of the miles I've put on this car have been from highway miles. I've been doing all my regular maintenance myself. I've had all the oil changes every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. And if you guys have seen my oil change video, you know I have the Famoto oil drain valve, which makes changing your oil just super easy. But regular maintenance on the oil change is crucial to keeping this car healthy. You know, I always hear a lot of negative talk about the Subaru motors and these blowing up, but honestly, any car that you take care of, keep up to date on your maintenance, it's gonna last you a while. I'm in this shaded area right now, but it is warming back up in Florida already, so I am gonna sit in the car. I'll have some B-roll clips of stuff that I'm talking about and lay it over. So yeah, in just terms of like maintenance, the regular oil changes, things to look for. If you're buying this car used, a lot of things that people don't really think about are like the tires. So for instance, mine was a 2016 and I bought it in 2021. But even with 28,000 miles when I bought this car, the tires, the tread was fine, but especially in Florida, you want to look for dry rotting on the tire. So even though the tread of the tire looked brand new and really low usage on it, it was starting to dry rot, which basically means like the tire starts to have cracks. You definitely don't want to drive on a tire like that because with the heat and the rain, especially in Florida, and like me for highway driving, it'll expand and shrink and just really eat up your tire, and it can essentially just explode on you over time. So definitely look for that if you're buying a car. I had to replace my tires, but luckily they lasted just long enough until I got my raised wheels and I got new tires that way. So look for that if you're not trying to buy new wheels and tires right off the bat. And then the other thing is like the stock sway bar end links were basically destroyed on my car. The rubbers were just completely disintegrated, and when I first got this car, I didn't even look at that. And so when I was coming in and out of my driveway all the time, I would just hear a loud clunk or anytime I turned my wheel, and I figured it was something to do with the linkage, but these sway bar end links were just completely destroyed. So again, I already had my set of BC coils with the end links ready to go, so I was able to replace that. So just something to look for. Overall, the car, I love this car. This is like one of the best sports cars you can get if you're getting into sports cars or the car scene, or you want something that's relatively cheap. It's not going to be cheap, but it is cheap on the side of having a sports car and doing modifications to it. And another plus is obviously the market is so big for these cars. You can do pretty much anything you want to do with them. A track build, a street build, drift build, stance build, even drag. You can do swaps, pretty much anything. And all the aftermarket support is there, so there's really no issue there. Even American brands make a ton of stuff for these cars because they're just so popular, so you don't have to just buy all the expensive JDM stuff. And there's a lot of bigger JDM companies that have warehousing in America for these cars, so like Reddy, HKS, all the big name brands. You can get a lot of good parts for good prices and not have a huge wait time on them. And as far as like daily driving this car, I do average about, I want to say 25 miles per gallon because I am doing a lot of highway driving. Only on my weekend I do a lot of short trip driving to the gym, to the grocery store, or friends' houses or whatever. Now that my car has 73,000 miles on it, you can see there I got 73,262. I've really had no issues with this car. I mean, some of the stuff, like I've already said to look for, I was planning on replacing anyway. The main thing you do hear about these cars, I have the manual transmission, and if you are looking into the manual transmission, around 50,000 to 60,000. For me, it was 55,000, right on the money. You hear the throwout bearings do go out, and so it's basically just inevitable, no matter how good of a manual driver you are. Essentially, the throwout bearing from the factory is not properly greased, and so it just burns out, and it's typical around that mileage that you do see that. Again, I highway drive a lot, so I didn't really intend for it to come, but it did right at that mileage. So some people it happens earlier, some people it happens later, and you'll just put the clutch pedal in one day and start hearing the grind. And so even though it is a $5 part that you need to replace, it's easy just to replace the whole clutch. I myself have gone through 2 clutches, because the first time that I replaced my clutch, I put it in ACT lightweight flywheel stage 1 kit, which was a nice clutch, but for some reason I was not thorough with my research. I was just like, hey, I'm gonna upgrade the clutch because I'm replacing the throwout bearing, so I'll get a next step up clutch. And the ACTs actually, for whatever reason, have a fitment or alignment problem with the 86s. And so you'd see some problems like getting kicked out of first gear at a stop. Like if I was at a stoplight and I had to go into first, it was like trying to shift into a wall. It just was not happening. So you'd have to get into a different gear to get in the gearbox and then shift into first, while the person behind you was getting pissed and honking at you. And plus, like, on my commute sometimes, because I take the highway, there's no telling if there's an accident or morning traffic, so hopping in and out of gear with a lightweight flywheel was a real pain, because you have to be really touchy on the throttle and basically burn the clutch. So I did take that out and put a Exetti OEM clutch back in, just because I don't need anything fancy. And my future plans with the car is I do want to drift the car. So right now I'm just doing a lot of cosmetic and interior mods until we can drift the car, because I want to start as stock as possible. Obviously I am lowered. I do have my stock wheels still that I'm probably going to plan on learning and practicing on once I start drifting. I do want to upgrade the subframe differential and the subframe bushings before I start drifting, just because these cars are notorious for going through axles once you start driving it on a track or drift kind of basis, because of the movement, and the axles basically sit right on the subframe, so it's typical to kind of go through axles if you don't have the upgraded bushings and diff risers in. So I'm going to be doing that before I start sliding. And this is my daily driver, so I don't want to go and take a bet on drifting and something break, and then I don't have a car to do my daily activities and get to work and survive with my car. So little by little, I am going to slide eventually, but I have to do a lot of prerequisites before I get there, just to kind of cover. So slow upgrades right now. Like I said, we're doing some cosmetics. I do have my front lip in, like I've shown you guys, and my side skirts. I did get the TRD replica side skirts from OLM that are like $250, just because I do daily drive it, like I said, and I plan on drifting, so I didn't want to spend a ton of money on side skirts that I know are probably going to get thrashed and tore up eventually. So why not? They're pretty popular, and from what I hear, the fitment and quality is pretty good for the price. So once those come in, we're going to throw those on the car, and the car should get an entirely new look and look pretty good. I am pretty much as low as you can go right now without having your axle on the actual subframe. And for drifting, I think my height is good for right now, until I kind of get into it and figure out like specs and angle and fitment and all that stuff. As far as like anything that I have to nitpick about this car, I mean, there's really not a lot, because this is such a good all-around car. If you don't need like crazy passengers or anything, obviously you hear, you know, these back seats are basically just, they're basically back there just for like storage or something. Like I have my rain jacket back there, and that's about it, because you really can't get anyone back there. So if you only have like one passenger or it's just you, this car is perfect. And the trunk has plenty of space. You can fit all 4 tires, probably like a small jack, some tools back there with the seats down. When I got my new tires, I was able to fit all 4 of the stocks back there. and there was plenty of room. The gas mileage, like I said, is really good for this car depending on your driving style. The manual definitely helps with that. The visibility out of this car is really good. Really can't complain because you can see out everywhere. I mean, you can see over the hood so easily to know where you're going. You have this nice little window here that you can see out. The mirrors and the windows are not small. Usually in a sports car, kind of like the new Supras, they're very small. This will probably be like half. So there's a lot of great visibility out of this car. And driving this car, one of the best things I love about it is the handling, especially with the tires. And if I'm on the highway and I have to either brake short or make a move around traffic and something sudden happens, you know, you have really good control over this car. The low center of gravity, the coils and everything just makes you feel really safe. Aside from maybe when you have someone right on your butt and they're tailgating you or whatever, sometimes that can feel a little sketchy, but you can just move around and get away from them or whatever. The seats in this car from stock are really good, especially for the price point. They hold you in really well. They just feel really good on your back. They've got great support. And the sides, they keep your legs in pretty well. You can see my legs. There's a pretty decent amount of support for stock seats, and then you've got the knee pad here. I'm about 5'11", just under 6 foot, 170 pounds. And I fit really well in this car. I mean, I have plenty of headroom, plenty of visibility, and I'm plenty of room with the pedals and the steering wheel and the gearbox, so it's a great car. I have upgraded my brakes, and when I did upgrade my brakes, I went ahead and upgraded them because I wanted to in the first place, but also kind of the mindset of like, I was around 60,000 miles and I wanted to replace my brakes. And like I said, because I highway drive, when I took off the rotors and the pads, they probably had another 60,000 in them just because they weren't heavily used. So pay attention to that. You hear a lot of things of recommended maintenance of mileages and whatnot, but just keep in mind your driving style and what kind of driving you're going to be doing. Obviously, if you're going to be doing some city driving, you're going to do a lot more wear and tear on the throwout bearing and the clutch and the brakes and all that kind of stuff. Whereas if you're just in 6th gear driving most of your time, you're not going to have a lot of wear and tear. Other than the throwout bearing and the clutch, I really haven't had any problems, major problems with this car. And kind of like I said with the oil changes, is as long as you're doing your maintenance and taking care of the car, you're not hammering on it all the time, you're watching your fluids and all the stuff that you need to be doing, the car will take care of you and it'll last. I've seen plenty of 86s and FRSs, BRZs that go 150,000 miles plus. And it really is just a matter of how you treat your car and taking care of it and your regular maintenance. I haven't had anything major at the mileage I'm at. Like I said, you hear sometimes the wheel bearings will go out. They have problems with the fuel pump and some of the fuel stuff, but I haven't had any problems there. I would say this is such a good car, like I said, to get into because the price point and the reliability is really well for a car like this. And it's a really easy car to work on if you're trying to get into cars and working on your car. It's one of the best cars you can start off on because it really is that easy to work on it. It's lightweight, parts are really accessible and whatnot. So it's also a great car if you're trying to get into manual. Driving this car for the first time manual in the road, it took me about a day or two to kind of get the gist of it, and now I'm a pro. I can heel toe and I can rev match and all the fun stuff. And one of the best things that I love about this car is because it is lightweight manual, it's not crazy fast. You can have a ton of fun with it without getting into crazy trouble because you're not tapping the gas and boom, you're already speeding. You feel like you're going faster than you really are. So for the 2 and probably 2.5 years that I've had this car now, I would give this car a 10 out of 10. I'm probably gonna keep this car forever so long as something doesn't happen to it. I have huge plans with this car and I'm gonna keep progressing and working on it and fulfilling those goals. So like I said, for the future, we're gonna be doing like a grassroots drift build, street style build on this car. So I'm really excited for that. So stay tuned for that. So if you guys are thinking about getting one of these, definitely pick one up. Right now is probably the best time to get one because the prices are going back down. So yeah, that's gonna be my 2.5 review on the car. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you found some valuable knowledge from this of the long-term owner review. It's a great car. If you guys like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. We got big plans coming up in the next few videos. Like I said, we're gonna have some of those body kit pieces. I also need to do some paint correction on my car, which is gonna be a first for me. So look forward to that too. The car's gonna get a great detail soon. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. If you own an FRS, give me your 2 cents. That's gonna be it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.